Okay, as I promised in my previous video, we can also use completing the square to solve quadratic equations. Now, just remember, we can solve quadratic equations by factoring sometimes, by taking square roots sometimes, by completing the square sometimes, but solving using the quadratic formula works all of the time. Okay, so that's the best option, just completing the square works sometimes. Okay, so here I want to use completing the square. The very first thing when you do complete the square is you want to have your x's on the left, your regular numbers on the right. So I'm going to say, start off by saying plus 3 on both sides. So I have x squared plus 10x equals 3. Okay? Now again, I want to do my complete the square, so that I want to compare how does x squared plus 10x match up with my pattern x squared plus bx. Okay, so my very first step is, what is b? Well, for this particular problem, obviously b equals 10. Once you know what b is, the next step, just like we saw in the previous video, was say b divided by 2. So in this particular problem, it's b divided by 2 is 5. Once we know that, again, that's going to help us write our perfect square trinomial that we're going to make. We're going to rewrite that as the square of a binomial. So I want to put a star next to it because I want to use that number in just a few minutes. But before I can use it, I need to square this number. So I'm looking for b divided by 2 squared. In this case, that means 5 squared, which is 25. Now, as soon as you have this number, remember, that's our c. Okay, so I'm going to make a perfect square trinomial by adding c. But what I do on one side, I have to do on the other because this is an equation. An equation means balance. So I'm going to say plus c on both sides of my equation. Which means I'm going to have to say, and this was a 10, not a whatever that was. So plus 25 on both sides. Plus 25. Because I have to maintain the balance of the equation. Otherwise, everything falls apart. Now what I have is a perfect square trinomial. And remember, my perfect square trinomial can be rewritten as the square of a binomial using the pattern x plus b divided by 2 squared. Okay, so that means for this particular problem, I have x plus 5, because that was b divided by 2, squared, and that's equal to 3 plus 25, which is 8. So completing the square lets me rewrite the left-hand side. Oops, and this should be 28, not 8. Okay, so now I have x squared, and I need to get rid of the square, so I want to take square root on both sides. But remember, when I take square root, since my power was even, I need to consider plus or minus. So I just have x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 28. I want to get x by itself, so subtract 5 each side. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 28. You can leave your answer like that because I have x by itself. Or you can keep going and split this up. So x equals negative 5 plus square root of 28. And x equals negative 5 minus square root of 28. So I have two answers. Of course, you can turn these into decimals if you want. I'm not going to. Let's do another example. Solve 3x squared minus 6x plus 12 equals 0. Okay, so my very first thing is I want my x's by themselves on the left. So I need to start off with this problem by subtracting 12 on both sides. So 3x squared minus 6x equals negative 12. Now, remember my pattern that I'm looking at, that I'm comparing to, is x squared plus bx. So there's nothing in front of the x squared of my pattern, so I've got to get rid of this 3 on both sides by dividing by 3. I'm going to divide everything by 3. And when I say everything, I mean everything. We've got to maintain the balance. 3 divided by 3 cancels out, so I'm left with x squared. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. X just falls down. And then finally, negative 12 divided by 3 is positive 4. So now that we have nothing in front of our x squared, we can match up our pattern perfectly. So that means for this problem, b is negative 2. The next step, we're going to divide that by 2. Which is negative 1. And again, I'm going to put a star next to it because I'm going to use that negative 1 to write my perfect square trinomial that I'm going to make in just a minute as the square of a binomial. Okay, so now next step is I take -1 and I square it. And remember, I want to add that number in step 3 to both sides of my equation. So +1, +1. What that does is, on the left-hand side, I've now made a perfect square trinomial, which can be rewritten as the square of a binomial. So this piece on the left can be rewritten as the square of a binomial using the pattern x plus b divided by 2 squared, which in this particular problem, b divided by 2 was -1. So I'm going to have x minus 1 squared, and that's equal to 5. Now I want to get rid of my square, so I have to take square root on each side. But remember, since my power is even, I've got to consider plus or minus. Alright, so square and square root are going to cancel out, so I'm just left with x minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 5. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to add 1 each side. So x equals 1 plus or minus square root of 5. And I have x by itself, so technically that's my answer. However, I could split that up. Let's do that. So x equals 1 plus square root of 5. X equals 1 minus square root of 5. And like we just said in the previous problem, you could turn those into decimals if you wanted to. I'm not going to. And that's it for this video.